which has helped me to seriously drop my pack weight has been the Gatewood Cape. This is the 6 Moon Design Gatewood Cape. It comes to you like this in its own little pouch, and you also with it get the harness which supports your trekking pole and is also the main guy line for the tent. The pouch will actually fit other things into it. You can fit the Serenity net tent, which is another 6 Moon Designs tent, and you can also fit your pegs into it. Alternatively, if you want, you can get this way smaller. It'll go to about half its size, and that is about the size of one of my old Paco jackets, which I used to have when I first started walking. The reason this tent helps you to drop so much weight is because it has 2 functions. The first of those functions is the tent. The other kind of secondary function, if you want, is as a waterproof cape. Now the pouch that it comes in is actually all part of the tent, and you simply open it up like this, place it over your head and put your hands through the 2 handholds by there. Now you can see there's a lot of excess material here. Because the cape is a tent rather than just a tarp, there needs to be this extra material. So inside the tent there are 2 snaps, and you simply gather up the excess material and snap it in there, and that just helps to get rid a lot of this excess material. At the front of the cape is this zip, and this will just zip open to give a bit of ventilation. The cape is silicone nylon, so it's not breathable, and this just extra bit of ventilation can help a lot. Inside, the pocket that everything's stuffed into becomes a pocket inside the cape, and that will fit an OS map into it. The hood of the cape is pretty basic. It's quite big. The only adjustment is to draw a cord at the front, and for me it's too big. You can help to alleviate some of that, just put on a wide brimmed hat or a baseball cap, and the hood just fits over the top like that, and that will give you a bit more protection. The other problem you're going to have is that the cape in the wind becomes like a sail. I've got 2 solutions to this. One, you can just get a length of shock cord with an adjuster on it and just tie it round like a belt, and that will help keep the Gatewood Cape tight. The other thing I've done is in between my legs I've just got a little mitten hook, and I've clipped it together in between my legs, kind of like a big nappy. Final problem you're going to get is your arms. Your arms are going to get wet, especially if you use trekking poles. You can just wear something like the Reb Quantum wind shirt, any wind shirt which is water resistant, will just help keep your arms dry. It's one of those compromises which you're going to get with an item like this. Setup for the Gatewood Cape is pretty straightforward. In the neck of the hood is where you insert the harness. If you flip it over, you can see the harness is attached with these little clips, and there's 6 of them. This is actually a bit of a faff, but because the opening is wide, you can actually leave this in place, and you'll just have this guy line hanging down your back, you don't really notice it. That's a lot easier. Setup of the cape's really straightforward. I've staked out the 3 rear pegs and I've got my tracking pole adjusted to the height which I want. You simply insert the tracking pole into the harness, raise the pole up, and bring this line down. Once you staked in this guy line, the front of the cape clips onto the guy line and is tensioned like that. Then all you've got to do is stake in the other 2 corners. Once you've got the tent up, then you can simply do the hood up. Depending on what the weather's like, you can get ventilation through this hood. You tension the whole tent through the use of this guy line, which has got one of these line lock adjusters at the top. As you can see, the front of the tent is not down to the ground, it's more of a beak, but it's that low you're not going to get a lot of rain splash through there. The tent simply opens up like a conventional tent and is secured with an elastic toggle. Inside the tent you've got plenty of space. You can see between my head and the top of the tent there's a lot of room. If you compare the weight to a traditional bivvy, it's a good weight to space ratio. Now you can just throw down a bivvy bag in here, or if the weather's nice and there's no bugs, then you can just put down a ground sheet and just sleep like that. And you've got all of this porch space, you can cook in here, the ventilation is great, so there's no risk of carbon monoxide. But what I like to do is I like to use this, which is the Serenity Net Tent. It's another 6 Moons design tent, and it effectively turns this into a 2-skin tent. So I've just attached the inner tent at the 4 corners, just with a little elastic loop. There's a mitten hook at the top, and that just attaches to the harness, and there you have your full net inner tent. Cuts down the space, you don't get that back vestibule area, but for me this is really all the room I need. Inside, those same loops that you could use to get the excess material out of the way, now just clip onto the Serenity tent. It's nice little touches like that that make all the difference with the Gatewood Cape. The zip on the Serenity is a 2-way zip. That's also true for the beak of the cape, so that also increases the ventilation options. Inside the tent there's plenty of room for me to lie down. I've got a decent amount of width here, and again it's possible to sit up. Another nice touch is this. The original pouch and the pocket on the cape becomes this. A pocket you can zip up and you can put whatever you want in there to keep your tent organised. One final nice touch. If you got 2 tracking poles, you can just attach a bit of guy line on with a lark's foot, loop it over the top of the tracking pole, and guide out, and that will just give you a little bit more headroom in there when you're lying down.